Hey, you're here with Ben, and I want to show you Near From Home's best summer day trips from Munich. It's no secret I absolutely love the Bavarian countryside, and so today I want to put together a bit of a compilation of some of my most essential Bavarian day trips to help you with your summer planning. I'm going to order them from most to least obvious, so stick around and see how long you can keep up. Are you going to know all 6? Or do I have some surprises in here for you? Either way, let me know in the comments how well I did and how well you did too. We'll start with an easy one for you, and that's Salzburg, the 4th largest city in Austria, and in my opinion, the most beautiful. Nestled along the gorgeous Salzach River and tucked into a naturally fortifying cliff, this city is stunning. Though naturally, many of you might already be well acquainted with its charms to the Hollywood classic The Sound of Music, but did you know this city dates all the way back to the Roman settlement of Luvavum, whose city plan looks shockingly similar to what we still have today. Making its riches through the salt trade, this city has been a seat of power for well over 1,000 years, and where there are immense riches, there too must be hardened fortifications to protect them. In fact, that's exactly what the name Salzburg means, salt fortress. And so naturally, this town has one of the largest medieval fortresses in all of Europe, Hohensalzburg. I love this castle, and no trip to Salzburg, for me at least, would be complete without an ascent to its lofty heights. Sure, you can visit its museum and the armory, which you definitely should do if it's your first time, but for me, well, the best thing to do is grab a local beer with the best backdrop you could ask for, Salzburg itself. Not to be left behind though, Salzburg isn't just stuck in the era of knights in ornate armor or old Roman roads. The city center itself boasts some of the best preserved Baroque architecture in the world, adding a wonderfully artsy counterbalance to the harsh fortress above. Which, speaking of being artsy, though Mozart might have made his fame in Vienna, he was actually born in Salzburg, and if you wanted to visit his birthhouse, then you definitely could. But for me, the best Mozart-based attraction in this city is the delectable Mozart Kugel chocolate balls. I know that sounds really silly, but they really are fantastic with a core of marzipan and pistachio. I love them. But sadly, they have literally nothing to do with Mozart. He never ate them. You can find cardboard cutouts of him trying to flog these on you all throughout the city. But the best place to get them is Café Fürst, home to not only the original recipe, but they have some wild ice creams too. So don't even bother with the other stuff. You need to go here. If you don't mind getting a little morbid with me, one of my favorite things to do, especially when I want to get away from the tourist crowds, is to visit one of the graveyards. My favorite being St. Peter's Cemetery. It has some truly exquisitely crafted gardens, some amazing views of the castle from below this time, and my favorite part, a small series of tombs carved right into the cliff face itself. Now, if I've sufficiently hooked you on going to Salzburg, then you'll be happy to hear that the logistics of visiting this city couldn't be easier. It's only an hour and 40 minute train ride from Munich, and they depart every hour, so it's super well connected. But if you want to see the full logistics for yourself, along with even more tips and first-person impressions, then you should check out my complete Salzburg guide linked below, after you finish this video, of course. Next up, we have one of the most popular lakes in Bavaria, so I'm sure all of you out there are going to know this one. It's time to talk about Tegernsee. Not only is it immensely popular with the Bavarians, but it just so happens to be my favorite lake too. So I'm super excited to share its wonders with all of you at home. Now, why do I love it so much? Well, it's because Tegernsee has a little bit of everything, and if I could only ever go to one lake again, it would be this one. Starting off strong, Tegernsee has miles and miles of stunning hiking trails, so many in fact you could wander all the way to a completely different lakeside town, which is exactly what we did for Camille's birthday when we hiked from Tegernsee to Schliersee. Though as much fun as that hike was, my favorite trail leads up through the hills and straight to the Berg Gasthof Neureut, an exceptional mountain restaurant with great food, great cows, and even better views. It isn't the easiest hike I could take you on, with an elevation gain of 500 meters. It's definitely not for everyone, but for anyone in the mood to really stretch their legs and reward themselves afterwards, it's perfect. And yet still only one of the many incredible options that make this lake so great. Back down shoreside, the indulgences never end, as my main recommendation is to stop by any waterfront cafe and get yourself some coffee and cake. Whether I've just completed that epic hike or simply arrived a few moments ago from the train station, this is a mandatory stop. All cake in Bavaria is delicious, but with these lakeside mountain views, it's simply illegally beautiful and feels way too easy. I shouldn't be able to simply start at the Munich Hauptbahnhof, ride the train for an hour, walk for 5 minutes, and then be eating such wonderful food with one of the most serene views I've ever had. It's something else. And because it's so easily accessible, you'll find yourself surrounded by tons of happy people just enjoying a lazy weekend. This place has great vibes. And when you can't stand looking at the cool, clear, sapphire water anymore, well, you can dive right in and go for a good lake swim to build back up your appetite for my next recommendation, stopping by the Tegernsee Lakeside Brewery. And as the saying goes, every Bavarian's favorite beer comes from their hometown, and their second favorite comes from Tegernsee. I hope by now you're getting an idea for why I rank this day trip so highly. It isn't exactly a secret gem, and you'll need to be comfortable with some crowding, but I can't help but love this lake, and I've never had a bad time here. The sheer amount of choice and variety makes this place so special. No matter what sort of traveler you are, you'll find exactly what you need right here. Just mix and match the activities to suit your mood, and you're gonna have a great day. And naturally, if you want to know more or see some in-depth logistics and first-hand impressions, well, I've got 2 videos for you to check out. One complete guide to the lake, and another all about that hike from Tegernsee to Schliersee. But what do you think? Have you been to Tegernsee, or are you planning your next trip right now? Now then, let's move on to another easy yet essential stop on any Upper Bavarian itinerary, Mittenwald. I've seen a lot of people cover this town on YouTube, but in my opinion, they often not only miss almost all of the cool activities, but they often miss the spirit of the town as well. So let me know in the comments below, have you already heard of Mittenwald? And if so, stick around because I really want to know if I've managed to include anything that surprised you. Let's start in the town center, before we make our way to the hills and mountains. Mittenwald's downtown is like a tiny gold nugget. It may be small, essentially just that one gorgeous street, but it's dense and packed with value. My first introduction to this town's charms, though, was a little atypical, as I journeyed here for Mittenwald's famous Almabtrieb, or Cow Parade Festival, which is when farmers and townsfolk alike celebrate the end of the summer high Alpine pasture season by bringing the cows back down to their valley farms in style, with a parade right through the center of town. It was an incredible experience as Camille and I scrambled to get cool shots of the cows stampeding through such a beautiful main street, while also praying to not get trampled in the process. And as if it couldn't get any better, once the parade is concluded, you get to follow on behind the livestock back to their cute village farm and continue the celebration by having a liter or 2 of beer, surrounded by everyone in their traditional tract at a very authentic and local feeling beer festival. So, bias on the table, how could I not love Mittenwald with such an insane introduction? Don't worry though, even if you aren't here on parade day, there is still plenty of great stuff to do. The obvious, of course, is to walk that main street, sans cows this time, grab a coffee and perhaps some more cake. If this isn't Alpine Europe at its best, then I just don't know what is. However, as promised, there's far more here than just some pretty buildings. But to understand it, we need to get historical at the Geigenbau, or Violin Museum. For classical musicians, or lovers of the genre, Europe is full of obvious must-see cities, but for string musicians in the know, like Camille, who's a trained violist, then a pilgrimage to Mittenwald is a must. Luthiers discovered way back in the 1600s that this little Bavarian village has access to some top-tier high Alpine tonewood. Put that together with Mittenwald's key position on ancient trade routes, and you have a recipe for success. Naturally then, schools of string craftsmanship have been an essential part of Mittenwald's culture for over 400 years, and the techniques developed in this town were highly influential in the development of the modern violin. It's amazing really to think about it, right? How something is so supremely influential to greater European culture as the violin has a few fingerprints from this tiny Bavarian village right there on its back. Clearly then, I got a lot out of this museum, and that's exactly why I love little, local and specific museums just like this. It'll take you a mere 30 minutes to see its amazing amazing collection of antique instruments and charming workshop recreations, so really anyone can fit this in their itinerary. And I think you should, because you'll leave with a much deepened appreciation for the streets we've just walked and the forests we're about to visit. Right outside the town, you can find one of my favorite free attractions in the area, the Leutascher Geisterklamm Ghostly Gorge. They'll charge you a few euros if you want to enter at the bottom of the gorge, which is all well and good, but I say give that a skip and instead push on up the steep hill, because if you do, you'll be treated by one of the coolest pieces of hidden engineering in Bavaria, Mittenwald's Steel Bridge Cableway, a breathtaking multiple-kilometer-long series of suspended walkways high above the water below, attached to the side of the gorge itself. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the first time I came here, I damn near didn't walk it, because not only is it just daunting in concept, but the whole path is completely see-through, and those views looking down are gnarly. Once you get used to it though, this is some of the most fun I have ever had in a Bavarian gorge. And did I mention it's completely free? Unlike my next suggestion, which is still in Mittenwald by the way, we're not done here yet. As if you're looking for some truly inspiring mountain top views, like those at Germany's famous Zugspitze, then you should add Mittenwald's Karwendelspitze to your list. After ascending via cable car, you'll be greeted with not just good viewpoints, but some hiking trails too. Now, I'm not a huge fan of mountaintop hiking myself, and so I found the quote-unquote family-friendly path to provide far more than enough heart-pounding adrenaline-filled action for me. But real thrill seekers out there can try to summit the closest peak or bring a harness to clip in and do some horrifying ridge hiking, which I'm just not gonna do. You can't make me. Instead, you can find me back at the Mountain Hut restaurant celebrating my bravery with a cold beer, and quite literally my favorite Käsespätzle in Bavaria, a highly traditional rustic noodle dish covered in mountain cheese and fried onions cooked in an iron skillet. Sure, you can get it almost anywhere, but I still find myself thinking back to this one very fondly. Though maybe that was the adrenaline. That really was a lot just on Mittenwald alone, but how did I do? Did you learn something new? I sure hope so. And as always, if you want to know more or get some of those first-hand impressions, then check out my 3 videos on Mittenwald so far. The Karwendelspitze, Mittenwald's downtown, and of course an entire video dedicated to just the Almabtrieb. You also might want to go ahead and subscribe right now before you forget, because I've already got plans to come back and show you the fantastic mountain biking trails that Mittenwald has to offer. But that's gonna have to be for another day. For now though, let's move on and do some quicker, simpler, and less obvious suggestions. Starting with the beautiful lake of Walchensee, one of the largest and deepest German alpine lakes, and often regarded as having the most stunning sapphire waters in all of Bavaria. In my mind though, you don't come here for the water, you come here to hike the Herzogstand, a mountain peak with one of the coolest panoramas you will ever see. I can promise you that, as you'll get a bucket list worthy view of the twin lakes, Walchensee and Kochelsee. But not just that, you've got the flat plains of Germany to your north, the foothills of the Alps below you, and the full soaring mountain range to your south. Have you ever seen anything like this before? 360 degrees of magnificence, with every angle you look offering a different combination of Germany's natural wonders. And though a view like this would be a fitting reward for a 5-star Black Diamond hike, it's actually only a 30-minute wander from the Herzogstand house. And though you definitely can hike here from the lake shore, you can also take a gondola if that's your thing too. So really almost anyone can enjoy this incredible day trip. Of course, not to mention that once you've finished conquering the mountain, you can still grab a snack by the water and take a quick dip to cool down from all that exercise. It's an incredible day. A few years ago, I did a summer lake series of videos, and the Herzogstand at Walchensee is perhaps the lake I most want to revisit this year. So if you want to plan this trip for yourself, see some more great footage, and learn about the recreation of a Viking village, along with how to get there from Munich, well, you're definitely going to want to check that video out too. Next up, another short one, but I'm willing to bet good money that only my most loyal of subscribers are going to know about it, as this is a real hidden gem. Weltenburg Abbey, a Benedictine monastery dating roughly back to 617 AD, making it perhaps the oldest monastery in all of Bavaria. Situated along the narrow banks of the Danube Gorge, you could not ask for a more eye-wateringly picturesque scene. And did I mention they brew a historic beer too? Yeah, this this day trip is all wins. Actually, quite like their rare brew as well, which has won the world's best Dunkles beer over 4 times in the World Beer Championships. The brewery itself also dates back almost 1,000 years to 1050 AD. Making it the oldest monastic brewery in the world. Now, sadly, getting here via public transport is an insane headache, so many opt to take a tour which drives them right up to the monastery gates. But my recommendation is to rent a car and drive to the small village of Kelheim. From its easily accessed riverside parking lot, you can begin hiking along the Danube River as it cuts into the gorge. This walk alone would be worthy of a stop, but man, when you climb over the final hill and see Weltenberg Abbey peeking through the trees, tell me that isn't fantastic. Though keen-eyed among you will have noticed that the hike takes you along the wrong side of the river, and I haven't told you to pack any swim trunks, though you definitely could. But no, this day keeps getting better and better because now we get to ride a boat. A small wooden one will take you from bank to bank, and if you time the end of your delectable dinner at the Abbey just right, then you can ride the ferry back down the Danube and straight to the car park. This really is one of my most favorite day trips that I've ever done, and one that I always have queued up to take friends and family on when they come visit. From the wonderful hike, boat rides, beer and liquor-infused cakes, all in such a historic setting. What isn't there to love? And honestly, I think I've just convinced myself that I need to go back and do it all again as soon as I can. But until then, I'll just need to rewatch my own video to relive those amazing memories. And hey, if you want to watch it too, I'd recommend it. Now, I imagine I've managed to catch most of you out so far. I mean, surely you haven't known all of my suggestions, but I suppose it is possible. In which case, I really think we should be friends. We've got a lot in common. But buckle up now, buddy, because I've saved my most hidden, my most secret day trip for last. You aren't gonna know this next one, or should I say, 2 castle ruins. That of Castle Eisenberg and Castle Hohenfreiberg. 2 absolutely magnificent sites. Constructed a mere 500 meters apart on essentially the exact same hill. Eisenberg is the older of the 2 castles by about 100 years, with its construction beginning in 1313. Then about 100 years later, the Lord of Eisenberg's eldest son wanted a castle too, and so Hohenfreiberg was constructed just next door in 1418, which is just genuinely one of the strangest things to me. I mean, I love my dad and all, you're great, but if we're building castles together, I'm putting mine down at least a bit further along the road. I'm sure you'll understand. I'm sorry. In fact though, as a light-hearted prank, last time I took some friends here, I didn't even bother telling them about the second castle. Due to the sightlines during the hike up and the thick summer foliage, it's actually possible to never see it coming until you ascend the first castle's guard tower, which you know I guided them sneakily away from, saving the surprise for last. When they finally came face to face with the secret hiding in plain sight, their jaw dropped to the floor and I had a damn good laugh. Which is exactly what I love about this day trip. It's just so low-key. Hardly anyone really seems to know about it, mostly just a handful of local families on picnics, but naturally in typical German fashion, there's still a Gasthof just around the corner to get a beer and an active cow pasture that you'll definitely want to hike through. Not only are the cows adorable, but man, looking out from their pasture over the plains below and out towards the Alps, this is in fact my personal favorite viewpoint. To me, it's perfection. And as an added bonus, if you squint your eyes just a little, you might even see a very, very familiar grey smudge right up against the mountains, which is exactly what you think it is. That smudge is Schloss Neuschwanstein, perhaps the most famous castle in the history of humanity, even if it might not be a real castle. With well over 1 million tourists flocking to that fairy castle each year, I genuinely shudder to think about the sheer number of travelers and locals alike who are missing the forest for the trees and never see these authentic castle gems just 1 train stop north from the tourist behemoth. So as we watch the busy tourist-full train snake through the hills from our peaceful and quiet medieval tower, spare them a thought, pour one out for your lost boys, and consider sharing this video with your friends so that they don't miss out too, because I think we all deserve to be in the know. Getting to share these amazing experiences that I've had with you is a pleasure, and I hope you leave this video not only inspired to go out there and make some memories of your own, but I hope I've empowered you to get there too by including the logistics on my first-hand impressions in my full guide videos. If I've succeeded in my goal and you're excited and you're raring to go and you've enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing and sharing this channel around. As a tiny one, it really makes our day. A lot of work goes into this. And while we're thanking helpful guides, I want to give a big thanks to Camille's opa Jerome Welsh, who found Castle Eisenberg years ago on a road trip with his wife Evelyn. I've really loved hearing their stories over the years from when they lived in Germany, and it's been amazing going on some of those same trips with Camille. And now you at home get to join the family and make the treks for yourself too. Has anyone there managed to stick around and match me blow for blow with my suggestions? I would absolutely love to hear that. Maybe you in the comments below can teach me a thing or two as well. And next time you're in Munich, hit me up on Instagram, as the beer is on me. I'll meet you at my favorite beer garden in the city, and I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, no matter where that might be.